Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Munson, Judy's husband. We decided to bring you into our office so we have these conversations about workplace bullying all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought, why not share one with you? Because that way, you know, it might benefit you in the situation that you're in. So, like I say, we have these conversations all the time.
So please, just listen in, and if there's any questions that you might have, please contact us at workplaceintimidation.com and just email me, or at workplaceverbalabuse.com, and we'll be able to answer your questions right away.
Also, you can find us on Facebook too. The one thing that we don't want to do is hide our information from you. So if you go to Facebook, you can go to Judith Munson and search Judith Munson. You can do a search for workplace intimidation or workplace verbal harassment. And we have pages up on Facebook also. I know it's a really popular site to go to, so maybe you'll want to visit us there. In either case, we're really easy to get hold of. And of course, Judith has the answers to all of your questions, and we know that you're going through a bad time right now, so, you know, be sure and get hold of us, okay?
Well, you know, I think one of the reasons I started this business in the first place was the fact that I was bullied years ago down in Southern California at a hospital. So the healthcare industry is one of the areas that's very, very big on bullying. And I've heard of doctors bullying nurses and vice versa. So it is a big thing. So what happened to me was I worked in admissions, right, and I suddenly became ill and had to go to the hospital and have open heart surgery.
I remember that
those.
well.
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
you remember those days.
Yeah.
And afterwards, when I came back to work, it was like I was being sabotaged every day. That I would do my work, and then all of a sudden it was wrong. And I'd correct it. I'd do more work the next day, and the same thing. This type of treatment went on for 3 months until I was sick to my stomach driving to work. I was actually throwing up. I had headaches. I just didn't want to be there because I knew as soon as I walked through the door, I was going to get dragged into the supervisor's office, and eventually she started actually yelling at me. I even started seeing a psychologist. I was fearful of driving. I was fearful of leaving our home, which was put a big burden on you.
Right.
And even our kids. Our kids would take me around places I needed to go.
Yeah.
So and that went on for 7 years. Even when we moved up here to Northern California, 7 years later, I was still afraid to drive very
Didn't
far.
want to leave the house.
Didn't want to leave the house, and I left, and you had gone to work, so there I was all day long.
Right.
And wouldn't even go to the grocery store.
Yeah, and I might mention this all happened a number of years ago when Judith was not that old, really. Kids at school, and we were both working, you know, working parents. And, you know, all of a sudden this health issue just slammed her one day, and the people she worked with just loved her, and they all got along great, and she was doing a good job. Everything was fine. But after it happened, of course, then everything was different. You know, her supervisor was down on her. The co-workers didn't really want to talk to her that much or associate with her. So, you know, it's kind of like she was left out in the cold, so to speak. And, you know, in a situation like that, what are you going to do? You know, you're doing your best job you can, and you're double checking your work, and then the next day you get called in and everything you did was wrong.
Well, you know, the reason they did that was because the hospital had an unwritten policy that if someone became critically ill or had a health problem that arose, that meant that their premiums would go up and that they would have to pay for hospitalization or treatments or whatever, then they found a way to get rid of you. And that's exactly what they did to me.
Yeah.
I learned that from a nurse that worked there at the major hospital in San Diego. And she told me, she said, there have been women that have been way overweight, and because of this, they have let them go or forced them out because they say they're a health risk.
Right.
So you might want to make sure in your state, your city, wherever you're working, that they're, what the laws are, what the rules are of wherever you're working.
Yeah. Speaking of the law,
yeah.
We just did a video series, and we did a video down at the state capitol, and basically, it was a question that says, is there a law against workplace bullying? And the answer is
no.
No, absolutely not.
No.
There's laws against sexual harassment, there's laws against discrimination, racial discrimination, age discrimination, gender discrimination. There's laws against all that, and there's laws that have been there's legislation that's been tried to be passed in these in different states, but nothing has ever stuck yet. Illinois came the closest, back in.
It's been a few years.
Yeah, in a few years they passed through their, I think their Senate, but then it went to the Rules Committee and died. So it never did get to the governor. But.
And that's what usually happens to these bills. It's called a healthy workplace bill. And if you're interested in it, then please email me and I'll send you a link to it so that you can read it and, contact your local representative and try and get something done in your state or in your area.
Basically, they've been trying to pass legislation since, I think, the Healthy Workplace Bill, its original form was drafted in 2001. So, as you can see, that's 10 years ago. And they've been trying. There's probably, I think there's 26 bills right now in 11 different states that are sitting in, going through the process. But nothing's happened yet. And that was as of earlier this year that, but everybody keeps pushing for it, the having a law against workplace bullying or abuse in the workplace, things of that nature. These are really health-harming activities, behaviors that people just don't know the bad things that happen to you.
It can make you psychologically damaged. It can cause physical damage. In my book, Alligators in the Water Cooler, and you'll be able to find that on my website, I have a chapter in there on one of my clients was bullied so much, and she had to leave her company because she feels that it actually caused her cancer the second time around. She had cancer when she was in her earlier life, and as the bullying increased, it came back, and she firmly believes that being bullied weakened her so much that she ended up getting cancer again. Now, she is a survivor, so we thank the Lord on that one.
Absolutely.
But bullying causes so many other problems. How about your family life? What do you think it does to that?
It makes it pretty much non-existent. I mean, the stress of having problems at work is so debilitating that you bring it home with you. It increases your, the arguments, the tension in a married couple, it just, it's extremely nasty. So.
Well, what happens is that you, the person being targeted, you come home from work and that's all you can talk about. That's all you talk about to your husband or wife, to your kids, to your friends, and sooner or later they don't want to hear anything more about it. So what do? What do you think you do?
I don't know.
Well, I would take it to a psychologist, number one.
That's one thing you can do is get mental help.
Get some sort of help, whether it be a psychiatrist or a psychologist, so that you can get this stuff up and out of you. We've mentioned before in our videos that documentation is a huge thing. It may sound silly and it may sound, like it's not going to do any good, but documentation of exactly what's happening, when it's happening, where it's happening, who's there, and what was said is very important. Now, if there were laws that you could go in and you know, have a little microphone and be able to record it, but and some people in some states have actually done that and it's been beneficial.
Right.
However, I believe that's illegal in California.
Yeah.
So documentation is a very, very important piece of the puzzle when you're trying to get help or trying to get someone in the company to help you. Now, you take, of course, a chain of command. You take it to your manager. Your manager may say, take it to HR. So you go to human resources. Sometimes even with the manager, and you state what's going on. Maybe you're being bullied by a coworker. If you're being bullied by that particular manager, I'm afraid you're out of luck if you're going to go that route. I'm not a big believer in taking things to human resources because you have to remember human resources works for the company.
Right.
That's who gives them their paycheck. They may listen, but then in some companies you are actually written down as a troublemaker.
Yeah. And
they will seek ways in order to get rid of you. Some of the other ways of handling things are, I don't know, get into a support group. Maybe.
That one solution that I saw I really liked, mainly it was kind of like a get in your face one, but basically if you have a bully coming at you, yelling and screaming at you, whip out a notepad, start writing down everything that he's telling you, you know, and that's going to take him by surprise, and he's going to say, well, what are you doing? And you just tell him, well, you know, when the company evaluates my performance and it's way down there, this is going to be the reason, and I'm going to have it right here, and it's what you're doing to me that's causing my performance to go down. So I kind of like that solution, you know, kind of set them back in their tracks a little ways, you know.
And what that gives you is ammunition.
That's
so
right.
When you go before, say, the CEO, that you've taken it that far up the ladder, then you have documentation as to what took place. There was another way, and boy, it just went right out of my head. Maybe you can pick up while I try.
Are you talking about passive aggressive?
Yeah, let's talk about the passive aggressive.
The passive aggressive, boy, are they are sneaky. Talk about a snake crawling on its belly. Those are the passive aggressives because they're hard to recognize, really. They don't come at you, you know, yelling and screaming, but
they come at you like this.
Yeah. Hi, friend.
Yeah, you know, I really need to have this report done, typed up and done and ready within an hour. Will you do that for me? And of course, the passive aggressive says,
yeah, I'll do that for you.
Oh, I think I'm reversing our roles here.
Yeah, and so then when you do it for them, what do they do with that report that you just finished for them?
They know we're getting this all mixed up.
Yeah, they take that report and they take it up and say, here's the report that I just did for you. They take credit for it.
Yeah, okay, that's another way. Now, I think, and we have to be honest here, that we were getting those roles a little bit mixed up. Now, when I worked in a convalescent hospital, again in Southern California, I had an administrator that, now I was receptionist, and believe it or not, there's a lot more work to it than just saying hello to people. And my administrator came out to me one day. Her name happened to be Judy also, and she put her arm around my shoulder and she said, how would you like to start doing payroll? And I looked at her and I thought, well, wait a minute, don't we have, what's his name over there in the other office doing payroll? Isn't corporate paying him for it? Well, what she wanted me to do was to calculate the nursing hours, and therefore they could be, of course, paid by the hour. Mm-hmm. And so I said, sure. You know, I felt, whoa, boy, she thinks I'm special enough and smart enough that I can do this. Well, she didn't tell me that I'd have to do it while I was answering the phones. And then when I asked for help, be trained to do it, she promised it to me and I never got it. As a matter of fact, I asked to be sent down to the corporate office so that they could train me for it, so I could do a really good job. And that was refused. The next thing she did was put me in the conference room with a big window so I could see my desk out in the hallway or in the lobby, and I was to do the hours there, and of course there's more distraction. So she set me up for failure. That's sabotaging a person. And yes, that's being bullied.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's another way, an example of being bullied. A bully isn't always in your face. A bully can, you know, sneakily sabotage your work. They can go into a meeting with you and put you down, insult you. You may be giving a presentation and that bully is over there talking loud, interrupting, distracting, banging a pencil on the table, anything to distract you. And it's done over and over again each meeting. Or you're left out. You mentioned me being, you know, left out at the hospital.
Right.
And that's exactly what happens. You don't get told that there's a meeting until the next day. You get the email, and of course it's a day late.
Yeah.
And then you get ridiculed for not being there.
Right.
So how does that work?
Well, there's all kinds of different ways that bullies can get to you. And believe me, there's no lack of bullies in these workplaces anymore. You know, we always talk about the economy being down, and it is. We're in a recession, let's face it. And so, do you think that causes the increase in bullying incidences in workplaces? I mean, are people being more aggressive as far as their jobs go against other people because they can get away with it because the other people won't quit and go to another job? They need to keep their job because it's hard to get jobs these days. So, you know, I'm thinking that maybe there's a lot more bullying going on than there used to be. And so, therefore, there's a need for that law, you know, the legislation. You know, so if you, you know, want to get involved in that legislation and, you know, write your state senators or your state congresspeople, and it's a state-by-state type of law, you know, it's not just a nationwide law. So get involved and just call your senator's office and let them know that when workplace bullying, anti-bullying legislation comes up for a vote, or, you know, comes to the floor, maybe they could vote on it or at least sponsor the bill, you know, so that we can get some legislation passed and get this nasty exercise that these people do outlawed.
Well, you know, the employer is under the impression that if that law is passed, that it won't be good for him or the company. Well, in fact, it will. It does protect them against claims that are made that aren't true or false. So there's a kind of a protection on either side. Now, the target, if a person is truly being bullied or harassed or anything, and they're being threatened with losing their job, then, you know, they should have some place that they can go, and they should have a law backing them so that they can either get restitution or they can either be transferred to another part of the company, which is an option. And sometimes if there's another branch of the company in a different city, in a different state, and the company pays for all the expenses of moving, then that's also an option, and I certainly would ask for it.
Well, look, there's laws, like I say, there's laws against discrimination and sexual harassment, things like that. So that if that happens in the workplace, there is, the people can get some type of restitution. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention about the workplace, and you just made it real, you reminded me of this, but what happens when bullying's going on in the workplace, okay? Maybe you have a manager bullying an employee or something. What do you think that bullied employee's performance is going to be like? I mean, it's going to go way down the tubes. They're not going to be producing like they should be. For one, they're going to be having more sick days. Okay, they're going to be going to the doctor more,
Yeah.
which costs the company. They're going to be, just not producing. So that affects that company's bottom line.
Yes, it does. And if more companies could see that it's very expensive to have a bully in your employ.
I know.
And the other thing too is that what about, we talked earlier a little bit about the people around, the coworkers that are seeing this bullying.
Right.
It affects them basically in the same way.
Yeah.
They're fearful about losing their job, so of course they're not going to say anything, but their performance goes down,
Right.
and their attendance is a little, shy of what they usually are. In other words, they're a perfect attendance, and all of a sudden they start taking days off, then there's something wrong.
Well, that's because they don't want to be around it.
So the productivity, right, so the productivity of everyone, if it's a project and there's several team members, then once, this starts happening and the team members aren't there, or some of them are and some of them aren't, then that project is going to fall on its face, and it could cost the company literally thousands or perhaps even millions of dollars.
That's right. And it's funny too, because the companies don't really look at it like that. The companies look at some of these bullying people like, oh, they're the go-getters.
Yes.
They're
yes.
the ones that are getting the job done. But, the end result of it is, they're getting the job done by bullying other people, which creates makes their productivity go way down. So, they take credit for what's being done, but the company's losing out in the long run.
Yeah, that's true. And also, I was thinking while you were talking that not only does the productivity go down, but it also creates bad vibes within the business community. If there's a high rate of turnover, eventually people are going to talk about that.
That's right.
And, customers that you may start to pull back a little, or the customer that you're going for has heard this, and they may not want to do business with you because you have such a big turnover of employees. And the other thing on the turnover is that how much does it cost a company in order to train somebody, put them through drug testing and interviews, not to mention the training that they have to have. I mean, they better stop and possibly listen to the bully. When they get a complaint, not listen to the bully, excuse me, listen to the person that's being bullied and try and work it out.
Yeah, it's amazing how the companies don't really seem to care that much about their employees and them being bullied. They just say, well, get over it, and that doesn't always work. So.
Well, we've talked a lot about companies, we've talked a lot about what bullying is. We didn't really give a definition, but I'm not so sure people need a definition.
Especially not if they're being bullied.
Yeah.
They know
If
exactly
it's
what
a
it is.
health-harming, repeatedly
Right.
type of activity that's
It's
against one
over
person.
and over and over.
Right.
It's like an everyday thing that just drives you down.
Yeah, and that's basically, in a nutshell, what bullying is. So, what do you do? How do you get to a point where you need to get away from this? It's ruining your health, it's ruining your marriage, it's ruining your work.
Right. So
what do you think you should do?
well, basically, if you go on the websites, you're going to find some solutions. If you buy Judy's book, you're going to find some solutions to this workplace bullying epidemic that's going on in our country right now. So, basically the solutions are you're going to have to either confront the bully or leave the job. We've given you a couple of suggestions like writing it all down, keeping track on a notebook of everything that's being said to you, keeping that ammunition bucket of yours full, so that when you do have to go up against the company, then you have the documentation right there that you can give to them. And the other one was the one I really liked was go ahead and start writing down what the bully's yelling at you about right now.
Yeah, I kind of like that
and
one too.
that might back them off a ways, but it basically comes down to, okay, is the company going to help you fix it? Are you going to leave the job, or are you going to confront the bully? So, you know, it's never a simple situation because every bullying incident is different.
Yes,
so.
it is. I wanted to mention that. And also, there are some things that people can do for themselves. You know, when this takes place, if you do leave your job, or even if you don't leave your job, there are things that they can do to help themselves. And I know exercise to get rid of the stress is one of them. You know, walking, using a treadmill, running, however you do a stress relief, you need to increase that so that you can get over, you know, or past this. The other thing is to have things in your life that make you happy. Do you have a pet? Or if you don't have a pet and you want one, then go get it. We have a cat. His name is Einstein, and he is a great stress reliever. Some of the other things that you might try are swimming. Have you ever thought about going swimming? How about taking a little short trip? Tom and I tend to get out of town for a couple of days once a month so that we can kind of, you know, get over some of the stress that we have in our work. And yes, it is a little bit stressful, but it gives us a clearer picture of what's going on and what we really value in our life. And so I suggest that you look for those things that you value. Is that job worth all of this pain? My guess is no, and that's what I decided. But if you decide to stay there, I would make sure that you understand your labor laws in your state, and if there is a possibility of getting an attorney that would help you with this, then at least go and talk to them for 30 minutes. It's free, so you might as well at least search that out. Tom, thank you so much. I really enjoyed doing this with you today. I really like that.
Well, look, Judy mentioned us getting away once a month too. Usually we'll go over the coast, but you know what? You know what we talk about when we're over there? We talk about workplace bullying and how to avoid it and how to help people get away from it. But yeah, this has been really great. We're glad we invited you into our home to have this conversation. One of many, by the way. But that's great. If you are having a problem, please get in touch with us so that maybe we can help you with the solutions of it. Okay?
Remember, if you need to contact us, go to www.workplaceintimidation.com or www.workplaceverbalabuse.com and email us, put a comment, or go to Facebook. We're on Facebook. Please go to any of those places and you'll find us, and hopefully we can give you the solution to your problem. Thanks again. Bye-bye, folks.